Welcome, everybody, to Inside Boxing Weekly on the Grueling Truth Radio Network. I'm your host, as always, not as always the last 2 weeks, Mike Goodpaster, and our former co-host from the last 2 weeks, or former host and now co-host, Jeremiah Preisser. How you doing, Jeremiah?
Very good. I've had a temporary demotion, but hey, I'm happy to be on. Always happy to be on. Let's talk some boxing, Mike.
All right. You also had a temporary promotion too, so you got to look at it both ways.
Exactly.
And I want to thank John Einreinhofer for coming on and filling in for me in the show also. He did a great job as always, and make sure if you like college basketball, college football, especially if you're in the West Virginia area and you have internet service, because I've been through there and it's hard to get sometimes in them hills. But John does a great job with the West Virginia Weekly show, basketball and football, so make sure you guys check that out. Let's start off talking about the fights from this last week. I mean, we had Miguel Moraga. Did I say that right? Because we know I don't say names very good. Lost a unanimous decision to Oscar Valdez. The scores were 119-108, 118-109, 116-111. Jeremiah, I watched this fight, and I thought Valdez was giving all I could handle. I had to fight 115-112. I don't know what the guys were smoking that were scoring the fight 119-108. But I thought it was a hell of a fight. It was competitive. Every round was close. What was your take on it?
I thought the same thing. In fact, I actually think those scorecards were disrespectful to the sort of effort that Marriaga put up. I mean, listen, we all know Valdez was a house fighter. We obviously this was a top-ranked card from top to bottom. That's all good and well. I understand that Arum, he wants to push his fighters further and farther. Again, that's all good and well, but Marriaga performed fantastically. I mean, a lot of people had Valdez clearly, and I told people, I mean, I knew Marriaga had a solid background. Again, don't quote me on this, but I thought he was in the Olympics, even though he got eliminated early. But, Valdez, for all the effort he put forth, Marriaga was there almost tooth and nail the entire time. He ended up slipping up, every once in a while, and he did end up getting put on his butt. But, I thought Marriaga's effort was great. I mean, I really liked what I saw from him, and I also really liked what I saw from Valdez. Valdez dug deep, right? So, when it looked like he was getting tired, he came back, kept throwing the combinations, and finished strongly. I mean, it was a great fight at the StubHub Center, a place that I've been to a number of times. It's just a great venue, great sight lines, good weather, but the scorecards were just bullshit.
Well, like they tend to be sometimes. Here's another fight that had one card that was bullshit, I think. The Echo Arena in Liverpool, you had Gabe Rosado lost a unanimous majority decision to Martin Murray. What was your take on the fight?
Well, initially I thought that the fight would be a bit better. I thought there'd be a bit more action, but in my opinion, it kind of failed to live up to some of my expectations in the sense that really the two guys, in my opinion, look like they've been past it for years. I mean, of course, anybody who's followed these guys closely for a while should know that was the case. But, I mean, I agree. And it's funny, the one guy who had the scorecard, which gave Murray every round but one, he wasn't British, but obviously he was still getting some kickback money. I mean, I just don't know. I mean, these guys are falling asleep at the wheel, or honestly, they're taking out handouts in paper bags or something. I mean, it's just ridiculous. I mean, it was a good fight. Most people that I know actually thought that Rosado won the fight. For my opinion, I thought it was either or. Again, I'm not gonna argue with that. It's just the scorecard that I really had a problem with.
Yeah, and really the only thing this is going to do is set one of them up for another ass-kicking because they're both, I think, have seen their better days.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Murray. He took an 11-round shellacking against Golovkin. I mean, he hasn't looked the same since. Rosada, he's had a number of poor performances in recent years, especially the Willie Monroe fight where I thought the scorecards were too close. I thought Monroe clearly won the fight. But, yeah, I mean, the best that they can do at this point, well, unfortunately, you're right. I think one of them is going to get another shot, but I think their best bet is just to keep doing what they've been doing. I think Rosada versus Murray, I think that's the type of fights that they're best off with at the moment.
Yeah, and the thing is this, though, I don't say that to be disrespectful because both of these guys are guys that would fight anybody, and they did, and they always gave everything every time they fought. So my hat's off to both of them. I think they're both, a credit to boxing. Let's go to the Barclays Center, Brooklyn, New York, where, of course, the grueling truth was Saturday night. Christopher Benedict was there, ringside, to report on the fights. Make sure you check out his article. But we're going to start off with a Showtime Extreme fight, or two Showtime Extreme fights. We had the Jose Miguel Borrego against John Delperdang. Delperdang is a man that fought Hank Lundy towards the end of December, started January. He was actually on our show. Great guy. And I'll tell you, he is a tough son of a bitch, Jeremiah. I mean, he probably lost every round there, but that dude comes to fight every time you put him in the ring, you're going to see maximum effort.
Well, yeah, and you can tell that the guy has a lot of confidence. I mean, look how tough he's been put in already. I mean, Lundy, a burgeoning prospect here. I mean, this is a guy who clearly has confidence in his ability. But, again, he's just not quite cut out for the top rung of the ladder. But, yeah, he's a damn good fighter, and he's worth paying a ticket for, especially when you got a lot of other good fights on the card.
Yeah, especially when you consider he was doing this, I think they said, on 4 days' notice.
Wow. That's impressive. I can't remember how much time he got to train against Lundy, before the Lundy fight. But, yeah, I mean, going in against an 11-0 prospect, one who's obviously the favorite, one who's fighting in his own backyard, that's pretty impressive. I mean, you got to give Delperdang a lot of credit.
Yeah, that brings us to another fighter that's near and dear to Christopher Benedict's heart. We got Amanda Serrano, who won her fifth world title with a TKO in 8 over a Dejana Santana. She won the vacant WBO World Female Bantamweight title. That's a big
mouthful, ain't it?
To say for that. But I don't know if you saw it or not, but Serrano, excellent fighter. I know her sister's a very good fighter also. I think they're both champions. Christopher's article was a definite, must-read, as all of his articles are. What's your take on Serrano?
Well, I mean, I think a lot of people place her, near the – I mean, unfortunately, you don't really have a women's pound for pound, because the competition is so thin, but you'd have to rate her, near the top, of course. I mean, what she's done is obviously a historic achievement, in women's boxing, and, she's represented her country of her nation. Obviously, Puerto Rico is part of the U.S., but she's represented her nation, with the utmost respect. I just think the biggest complaint from our fans is just the paydays that she's getting. You'd think somebody with 5 titles in 5 divisions would be raking in the dough, but if I'm not mistaken, her, Sheila's article, if I'm remembering correctly, her last payday was less than $15,000.
Yeah, and I mean, as you said, a lot of that's got to do with how thin it is, and another is just the lack of respect that the promoters give to women's boxing. I mean, probably the women's boxers that we've seen get respect are usually because Christy Martin was because she actually went to fight. Because I think she got, her big coming out party was on the Tyson Bruno 2 undercard, where she went on there, bled all over the place, and won a fight. But other than that, unless, as they say, sex sells. You had Mia St. John. Mia St. John shouldn't be paid before an Amanda Serrano. And she was probably making as much money as Serrano is now 15, 20 years ago. So I think it's about time to – and I also think this, just from the female boxing, because I have been watching more of it, because of guys like Christopher who are writing about it, and Sheila who writes about it for us. But I've been watching more and more of it, and I think that there is starting to become a little bit more competition. It's a little bit deeper, but it's going to take a few years. But you're also going to have, fights on Showtime like Clarissa Shields, like this fight, so you can actually begin to make a connection when you watch boxing to these female fighters. And, the Clarissa Shields story, I know I watched a Netflix documentary about her, T-Rex. You watch that, you see what she's been through, and it's hard not to cheer for her.
Right, yeah, I absolutely agree. Unfortunately, boxing is behind the times in so many different ways. You think about the 2-minute rounds that the female fighters also get, which, Nicola Adams, the British two-time gold medalist, is about to change that. The New Jersey Athletic State Commission said that they would allow 3-minute rounds for women. The boxing, again, it's just behind on the times. You look at what the UFC has been able to do with women like Ronda Rousey, Cyborg, et cetera. And boxing, it seems to kind of be coming around. You know, they're starting to get the spotlight a bit more. But again, like you said, it's just this continuous marketing that's going to do the trick.
Yeah, but see, you got a little more depth now because it seemed to me like there was like a decade where you heard nothing about women's boxing. And before that, you had Layla Ali. They'd put her on TV, Christy Martin, Mia St. John. There was 3 or 4 women that they would put on. But now you get the Katie Taylors, you got Heather Hardy, you got Serrano, you got Clarissa Shields. I mean, you got 7 or 8. I could actually name 10 female fighters now, which I probably in the past not been able to.
Right.
And once again, that's not my fault. But if they don't put them on, I can't see them.
Right. Well, and you got to attribute a lot of that to the introduction of female boxing into the Olympics. I mean, now, right, this is going to help generate more stars for female boxing. So again, yeah, that's why you have all these women coming up, and I suspect that they'll do fairly well. Again, it's just a matter of, you know, putting the fight on television.
All right, that brings us to the co-feature on that card at the Barclays Center, Charles Hatley. For some reason he got a title shot. I don't know what that reason is, but it was for the WBC World Welterweight Championship against Jermell Charlo. Charlo starched him in 6 rounds. Do you have anything to say about this fight, and do you have any idea how Hatley got a title shot?
Yeah, he got a title shot because of Don King. That's all I've got to say. I mean, besides that, I mean, the fight was a total mismatch. I mean, you look at Charles Hatley's record. Okay, he beat up on a long-faded Anthony Mundine, right? That's apparently what shot him into this position. Look, I mean, the guy's been stopped in 1 round by Leonardo Tyner. Tyner is not a bad fighter, but if you're getting beat by him in the first round, your prospects at the world level do not look good at all. This was a mismatch. I understand it was Charlo's first defense of his alphabet soup trinket title. I get it. A lot of these guys take their voluntaries. They take on somebody easy. So I'm not going to be too hard on Charlo, but he's got to step up the competition. His brother's already fought guys like, you know, Williams and Trout. Jermell's got to step on the gas.
Yeah, and I mean, he looks like he's improving, but it's hard to tell what the competition he's fighting. That brings us to the main event. Andre Berto was stopped in 9 rounds by Sean Porter. I don't think this was a surprise to anybody, Jeremiah.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't a surprise to me. I mean, Berto, for some reason, I'm not quite sure how he keeps collecting these paydays because it doesn't seem like he has a big fan base. He earned $1.2 million in this fight. Porter only earned $1 million. I mean, I don't know where the economic negotiations are coming from. I don't know how that works out. I mean, especially after Porter's performances against Brook and Thurman. But anyways, Berto, you look at his record, and this is what I did before the fight. He really hasn't beaten a genuine top 5 guy in the welterweight division ever. Yeah, he had a little WBC run, whatever. He just wasn't on this level. And the fact that he's been beat up a few times, the fact that he's older, you know, the fact that Porter is, you know, competing with arguably the 2 best welterweights in the world, yeah, for me it was clear. It was clear that Porter was going to take the fight. In my opinion, it took a little while. I actually thought he was going to jump on Berto in the beginning, but he took his time, wanted to box a little bit. But then it got rough. Looked like the ref couldn't handle it as well as he probably should have, but he ended up getting the job done. I mean, he bullied him. He worked on the inside, ended up stopping him, and I actually enjoyed the left hook that helped put Berto away. I thought was pretty nice. But Porter won, and now he's the mandatory for Keith Thurman, and I'm looking forward to the rematch.
Yeah, I'll watch that fight again. I mean, the first one was a hell of a fight. I'll watch those guys fight as many times as they want to put them on.
Oh, yeah, and if PBC needs to keep working with the model that they've got. I mean, when you're putting Keith Thurman versus Sean Porter, Keith Thurman versus Danny Garcia on free TV, you're doing it right. This is exactly the reason why the vast majority of us tuned in to the Showtime card as opposed to the HBO card. Because, again, who's going to pay pay-per-view for a bunch of mismatches, which, you know, Aram's, that's been his modus operandi for a number of years now. But yeah, when you're putting Thurman and Porter together on free TV, I'm not even concerned about pay-per-view anymore. Unless you stack that card from top to bottom, I'm not even looking towards it. PBC is doing the right things. Keep doing this.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and just preview one fight this weekend. It's a fight I'm actually excited about, and it's a heavyweight title fight that I'm excited about, which hasn't happened too often. And unfortunately, I wrote an article not too long ago about the top 10 heavyweight title fights from 1970 to now. And unfortunately, the last one that was a great heavyweight title fight we saw was well over a decade ago. I remember being excited for David Haye against Klitschko. That was boring as hell. I remember being excited about Fury Klitschko, boring as hell. So before we get to Klitschko Joshua, though, my question to you is this. Is the winner of this fight the heavyweight champion of the world, or is that still Tyson Fury?
Ah, man, that's a difficult question because as anxious as I am to crown a new king, it's one of those things that I've got mixed feelings about. Again, when you have an event of this magnitude and you have two guys like this fighting, especially Anthony Joshua, who, for a lot of people looks like the heir apparent, and then you have Wladimir Klitschko, he's many years past his best, but still serviceable, but he was for a lot of people it looks like that passing of the torch moment. But the fact that Anthony Joshua and Wladimir Klitschko don't have the torch, it takes a little steam off of it, in my opinion, and I still view Fury as the heavyweight champion. Unless the ring goes ahead and decides to strip him, I'm sticking with Fury.
All right. This is the way I look at it. Fury ended a 9.5-year title reign of Wladimir Klitschko November 2015, year and a half ago. Since then, they've been scheduled to fight twice. He pulled out both times of contractually mandated rematches in 2016 because of a litany of personal problems. And those problems have kept him away from the ring. Also, he has twice tested positive for cocaine. He has admitted to alcohol and mental health issues. On top of that, he faces allegations that he used performance-enhancing drugs in a fight before he faced Klitschko, which could lead to a multi-year ban from the sport. With so many issues and unable to defend the belts, Fury has pretty much given up the alphabet titles, right? He still remains the lineal champion. He claimed he would be back on May 13th. There's no way that's going to happen because, number one, he's a lard ass, and number two, he doesn't have a license from the British regulators. So to me, he's not in fighting shape. So to get in fighting shape, it's going to be 2 years since he last fought before he fights again. And with all the other shit going on with him, with the cocaine and the drugs, I'm over it. What I saw is this, and this is what excites me about this fight. They do that face-off show. All right, Max Kellerman does one. They do one in England, too. And I watched Klitschko and I watched Joshua. And when I watched Klitschko and Joshua, and I watched the respect they showed each other and the way they handled themselves, that's what a heavyweight champion is. Not Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury fought off his back foot, bored everybody to freaking hell. The most exciting part of him winning the title was his attempt at singing an Aerosmith song to his girlfriend, wife, whatever the hell it is, after the fight. So to me, I'm over him.
Okay.
He's a joke. We've had enough guys. He would have fit, to me, he's a guy that could have been heavyweight champion in 1986.
All right,
Mike, he could have been a Greg Page or a Tony Tubbs. He's a guy that has an enormous amount of talent, but he has a severe lack of brains. Right.
So I want to stop you only because, listen, you can talk about his drug issues and his possible performance-enhancing drug issues, but don't you dare talk about his singing, okay? He has the voice of an angel. No, I'm just kidding.
I think that, I know that he made you wet when he sang, but there's no reason for that to happen anyways. And I guarantee you this, when John was on last week with you, he never said you were wet at any point.
Nope. He doesn't go that far. He doesn't talk about my sexual appetite. But look, Listen. I am on board with. I completely understand what you're saying. I understand what you're saying with Fury. My thing, however, is that he's going before the British Board of Directors. We'll get some clarity then. But even if Fury is not the lineal champion, let's imagine that the ring strips him. How can this still be for the lineal championship? Because I don't believe, unless I'm mistaken, that the ring has Joshua and Klitschko number 1 and number 2. Right? Isn't that the criteria for crowning?
Yeah, but I believe this. Well, the criteria for the lineal champion was one had to fight 2, or if one wasn't available. There's a bunch of shit that goes into that, and I still think that disqualifies. I think this. I think Joshua and Klitschko. I think Joshua is the best young heavyweight. Klitschko, to me. And I know a lot of people disagree with me. I think Klitschko's a top 10 heavyweight of all time. I mean, he was a champion for 9.5 years. He beat everybody. He didn't duck anybody. There was nobody there really to duck that would scare the hell out of you anyways. But he beat everybody.
Right.
So, I mean, to me, when I look at it, these are the 2 best guys. These are the guys that should be fighting for it. I still have questions about Joshua. I mean, hell, we might come out and Joshua might be the second coming of Michael Grant. He might get tapped on the chin one time and it's over with.
Frank Bruno.
Well, I mean, Frank Bruno was better than Michael Grant. I mean,
well, listen, I want that too. I want that again. I want that passing of the torch moment. But again, based on Joshua's resume, I just can't get behind him. And seeing as Klitschko's last fight was just as long as Fury's was, and it was a loss, I just have a tough time getting behind. These are the 1 and 2 guys, and this should crown a new winner.
Who's better?
What? I think Luis Ortiz has a better resume than Anthony Joshua does. I mean, I'll take his win over Jennings over anything Joshua's done.
Jennings?
Yeah.
Come on. Brian Jennings is a decent fighter. I mean, this is the problem. The heavyweight division right now, the top 10, is a lot better than what it has been. But if you're fighting guys outside of the top 5 or 6, it's going to be slim pickings because it's still not a deep division.
That's true, but I believe based on Jennings' performance against Klitschko, he was a top 5 heavyweight when Ortiz beat him up.
All right, so here's my take on that, though. My take is this. Jennings won 2 or 3 rounds. All right? The only reason people think that was a good performance is because usually Klitschko shuts everybody out. Now, my main question for this fight is this. Was that a fight where Jennings, actually fought that well? Or was it the beginning of the end for Klitschko where he got a little bit older?
Yeah, well, I mean, personally, I'd say that he was older for a number of years before that. I mean, when you're talking about
you still got to take a year before that, and I mean, he's beaten the hell out of Pulev, who a lot of people thought at least had a shot.
He's still a top 5 heavyweight according to the ring.
Yeah, well, he still is a top 5 heavyweight. I mean, how are you going to take him away? He lost to Fury in a close decision.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, Pulev's only loss is to Klitschko. I mean, and he's been, steady ever.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Klitschko. Okay.
Oh, no. So, I was talking about Pulev. Sorry. Sorry for the mix-up. But yes, I mean, again, I like Joshua. I can't get behind him being rated I can't get behind him being rated highly enough for this to establish a new champion. But if Anthony Joshua gets by Wladimir Klitschko, and granted, Fury is stripped, which, if the way things are looking, it will be rightfully so. If Joshua beats Klitschko, he will be rated the number 1 heavyweight in the world, and then it will be him and Wilder number 1 and number 2, and that will be a big fight, and that I can deal with being a new, whoever wins that will be the throne sitter.
Yeah, right now the Ring magazine has Klitschko actually ranked number 1. They got Wilder 2, Pulev 3, Ortiz 4, Joshua 5.
I think that's fair.
I don't think it's fair with Pulev. Pulev to me looked fairly bad against Klitschko.
That's true. I mean, I would agree with that. But when you look at some of Pulev's other performances and what he's done since, I mean, I've seen I think he's had 2 or 3 fights since, and he's looked good. I mean, he's
okay. He won a split decision over Derek Chisora in Germany. A split decision in Germany. I mean, I did see the fight, and I thought that his performance was more dominant than a split decision. But, I mean, Derek Chisora? I mean, come on.
Okay, so, Chisora is a little more than a fringe guy now. But, I mean, you look at – okay, so he had sort of a rough time against Chisora. Yes, I understand. But outside of that, I think his performances have been good. But you're still thinking in the sense that his only loss – is to Wladimir Klitschko. I mean, Alexander Povetkin didn't look good against Wladimir Klitschko, but he whooped this.
He didn't get starched in like 4 rounds either, though.
No, that is true. I mean, he was put on his behind.
I mean, to me,
but who has Joshua beat?
Klitschko's on a completely different level in his prime than anybody we could talk about here. But the difference is this: one guy lost a 12-round decision, and the other guy got starched pretty quick.
Right, but who has Joshua beaten to earn a top 5 spot?
Well, who could he beat to earn a top 5 spot? Because there's, I mean, not that many guys there. I mean, Dominic Brazil, not a great win. I mean, hell, Dylan White's the guy that's ranked number 8. I mean, if you look at it, Luis Ortiz, who's Luis Ortiz's best win?
Again, Jennings, who was a top 5 guy.
Okay, Jennings is not ranked in the top 10. Anthony Joshua has a win over number 8 and number 9.
Okay,
when I look at Luis Ortiz, he's beaten nobody in the top 10.
Well, okay, but you have to put it into context. Ortiz beat Jennings when he was a top 5 guy. Joshua did not beat White or Brazil when they were top 10 guys. They became top 10 guys afterwards because of their post-Joshua performances.
Yeah. All I know is this. When we look at the top 10 right now, he's beaten 2 of them. And, I mean, Ortiz hasn't. Has he? Brian Jennings is nowhere near the top 10 right now. And Brian Jennings was looked upon as a good fighter because he won, 3 rounds against Wladimir Klitschko.
Right. Well, who's White beaten? I mean, we can play this. But
see, that's kind of my point. Once you get past like number 5, I mean, once you get past Joshua, you got Joseph Parker, Andy Ruiz. Those are guys that might be good. Well, they might not. You got Dylan White, you got Dominic Brazil, and a guy named Jarrell Miller. Now, I don't know about Jarrell Miller because he hadn't really fought anybody yet to show me anything. But when I look at Parker Ruiz, maybe they'll turn into be something. I'm not going to, hold my breath because Ruiz is, built like Tyson Fury's little son or something. Dylan White and, Dominic Brazil are just good fighters. So, to me, really, when you look at a heavyweight division, you got 5 guys that might be something. And really 4 because I don't think Deontay Wilder is something. I don't know why Deontay Wilder's ranked 2nd by the ring. Deontay Wilder doesn't have as good wins as Anthony Joshua, Kurbit Pulev, or Luis Ortiz. Why is he ranked number 2?
Well, I assume based on, I don't know, they must be exaggerating his title reign. His best win clearly was against Bermane Stiverne, who was a top 10 guy at the time. So that
but he was a top 10 guy because he beat up a bunch of guys that weren't in the top 10. He won the title by beating Chris Arreola. He defended it by beating Chris Arreola.
Right. Well, that's how most of these guys got into the top 10. They beat guys outside the top 10.
Well, almost all of them beat Chris Arreola, too, I think.
Oh, God, yeah, a good number of them. But, again, still, given what's been done and given the ratings are what they are, I don't see this being for a Lanil crown as bad as I would like it to be.
Well, see, I do, because I think Joshua should be number 2 over Wilder. I think Joshua would handle Pulev. And Luis Ortiz is the only one there that gets in the way that I may change my mind with.
Yeah, and again, it's fuzzy, and we've highlighted a lot of gray area that's in there because of the nature of the heavyweight division. A lot of these guys, you don't often see these guys fight one another. Again, Joshua and White fought each other when they were both outside the top 10. Who's Luis Ortiz fighting? Why isn't he fighting Pulev? Why? A lot of these guys just don't engage each other, so it adds to the confusion. But this fight will add some clarity to the division. We will know where both of them stand after this.
Now, my only question with this, I mean, number one, you get 2 Olympic gold medalists, 16 years apart. I mean, basically it comes down to one question for me here, and that's, does Klitschko have anything left? And the other thing is, did he look that bad against Fury because he didn't have anything left, or did he look that bad because of Fury's style? Fury's a guy that will sit back. He'll grab you. He'll hit you every once in a while. Anthony Joshua's a guy that's going to set his feet. He's going to come forward. He's going to throw punches. So I think Joshua is more made for Klitschko, but will Klitschko have anything left?
Well, I'd say that his performance against Fury was probably a combination of both factors. I'd say it's the Fury size, because say what you will, I mean, a lot of people don't like him because of his personality, but the guy can box. I mean, he understands the jab. He's got good length, and he's a big guy. He's not physically, he's not as cut as Klitschko was, but he's still imposing in the sense that he's so big. So again, I think it was a combination of age and the styles. Joshua, I think you're right. My problem with Anthony, well, let's answer the question, does Klitschko have anything left first? One thing that I like about Klitschko is not only that he's been a great ambassador for the sport during his entire reign, but he's always in shape. The guy's always training. So does he have something left? Yeah, I think he's got a little bit left. How much after this long of a layoff and aging even more and a poor performance his last time out? I really think it's hard to say. But I think Joshua, with the status that he's in, the fact that he seems to be training all the time, I'm going to have to favor Joshua here. Joshua, though I think you're right in a way where I think an old Klitschko would probably enjoy this. A younger Klitschko would probably enjoy this styles matchup a bit more. I'm not sure how well he's going to take a physical, young, quick heavyweight who can punch at this time.
Yeah, and I mean, to me, though, with Joshua, the other question is this. I mean, he had to go some rounds with Dillian Whyte. But the way I look at this is this. He's fighting, this is the biggest fight he's ever fought. He's fighting it at home. He's fighting in front of 90,000 people. The thing is this. I wasn't a professional boxer, but I've done some other things athletically. And the first time you get in front of a big crowd in a big situation, it has a tendency to take your breath away, if you know what I'm saying. I mean, basically, you got to be able to breathe. And at some point in a big, it gets hard to breathe sometimes. And I think that's one thing that we don't know about Joshua.
Yeah, no, I think what you're getting at is the sort of mental fatigue that can set in for a fighter who's not conditioned. We know Wladimir Klitschko, this is nothing to him. I mean, he's fought in front of, people can say what they like about his lack of fighting in the U.S., but he was making, tons of money in Europe fighting in front of 30, 40, 50,000 people on a regular basis. I mean, and he was fighting in, different locations as well. So this is a guy who has, mentally adapted to the situation, and I think he's going to be a bit calmer there. But again, to your point about the mental fatigue, that can take it out of you. That can take the wind out of your sails before you ever get in the fight. And not only that, when you look at Anthony Joshua's performance against Dillian Whyte, I think he looked good there. I thought the fight was fun. But in my opinion, Joshua, I don't know if it was because he was fairly active with his offense early on or because, it was this big domestic showdown. Of course, nothing. It pales in comparison to what this is.
He looked winded in the second or third round in that fight.
He really did. I mean,
and that's what I worry about here, because this is even a bigger moment.
Yeah, well, and it concerns me too because he's muscle bound. You know what I mean? Guys who have muscles like that don't have a tendency to have good stamina. I mean, people talk about Mike Tyson, but I think a lot of that was just natural. You know what I mean? He didn't look like Anthony Joshua looks, and he certainly didn't have the size Joshua does. I mean, when you're that muscle bound and you're almost 250 pounds, you're just not going to last that long. So if Klitschko can drag him into deep waters, and the fact that, again, this is my problem, and I've highlighted this on the shows we've done with Joshua before, he just doesn't move his head that well. So if Klitschko can drag him into deep waters and, start picking him off with the jab and right hand, we might have a new trinket holder there.
Yeah, I think the way Joshua wins this fight is, he needs to use his jab to work his way in, and he has to set a fast pace. Because if he doesn't set a fast pace, he's going to be like every other boxer that we stood there and watched Klitschko pick apart and either win a decision off of or hit him with one shot on the chin around the 8th or 9th round and knock him out. I think Joshua has to go in. I think he has to impose his will on Klitschko, because the other thing is this: Klitschko's 41, 42 years old. You got to question how big a deal is this to him now. He's done it for so long. Joshua still trying to make a name for himself. So I think Joshua has to go out. I think he's got to use his jab. I think he has to cut the ring off. I think he has to attack him.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think to Joshua's benefit, he looks like because he's younger, he looks, he's big. He's probably going to weigh in more than Klitschko will. So he'll be the bigger, stronger man. So, if Klitschko tries to tie him up, he's got to be active in the clinches. This is a problem that people have had with Klitschko forever. If you let him tie you up and then you let him break away and then get back to distance and jab you, you're going to be in for a long night. Joshua's got to be a bit rougher on the inside, and try to outmuscle Klitschko. Use Klitschko's tactics against him. That way, if you end up going into the deep rounds, I think his chances are better, again, because he's the – he may have fatigue issues, but Klitschko's going to have them too if he's got a bigger guy leaning on him the entire time.
So the question is this: who do you think wins the fight?
I think Anthony Joshua wins the fight. I'm a fan of Klitschko. I've liked him for years, but I haven't seen enough from him. And it's not that I'm convinced Joshua is the second coming of Lennox Lewis. I just don't think Klitschko has enough left to hang with in Floyd Mayweather's words, young hungry lion.
All right. I came into this show convinced Joshua would win the fight by a 5th or 6th round knockout. I've almost convinced myself to go the other way. Because really, when I watched him fight White, he got tired quick. And if he gets tired quick here, he's done.
Well, and he was hurt. A lot of people seem to forget that. A lot of people are like, "Oh, can Anthony Joshua take a punch?" I think his chin is solid for a heavyweight, but he was hurt in the Dillian White fight.
Most heavyweights, any heavyweight can be knocked out. Who would have thought going in that Hasim Rahman could knock out Lennox Lewis?
Not many people, but sometimes you do get the Oliver McCalls and David Tuas of the world. I don't think Joshua's one of those guys.
Yeah. But, Joshua can punch. I'm going to go with my original prediction, which is Joshua by a 6th round knockout. But it would not surprise me if Klitschko somehow wins this fight. And if he does, I don't think it's so much that how great he is, but I just think Joshua is not what people think he is. But
okay,
I like Joshua, though. So, it's just, I don't know. It's kind of like what you said before. You haven't really seen him do anything yet.
Right. Well, I want to ask you one question before we finish off the topic, because I saw this somewhere, and I thought it was interesting. So how much do you think that it helps Klitschko's legacy if he wins by convincing stoppage, or let's say a convincing 12-round decision? Either way, if he wins,
I will say this: I don't know how much. It might immediately help it, but I think it's going to help it even more if Joshua was to then turn around and do something with his career. Because if Klitschko dominates Joshua, and Joshua pulls a Michael Grant and just kind of disappears, well, then maybe it's not that big a deal. You know what I'm saying? But the thing is this: there's never been in the history of the heavyweight division, or most any division, has there been a 40-year-old champion that lost his belt, didn't fight for a year and a half, and then comes back to win his belt back. So I think that it will raise him. I think that how much it elevates him in a lot of people's eyes will depend on what Joshua does afterwards.
I think that's a spot on assessment. I think that's the best logical route you can take. I mean, it's one thing because, again, like you said, if he turns out to be, Frank Bruno or Michael Grant, yeah, the win doesn't hold a lot of weight, but it's still, even if he turns out to be a Michael Grant.
Hey, you know what? I hate to defend Frank Bruno, but you cannot put Michael Grant in Frank Bruno's sentence. I mean, if you watch Franco Bruno against Lennox Lewis, that was actually a pretty good fight. It went 8 rounds. You watch Bruno the first time against Tyson when he wasn't scared to death. He actually rocked Tyson. First 2 rounds were great. So, I mean, Bruno didn't take a grab, but Bruno was one of those guys that couldn't handle the moment. What we were talking about with Joshua, will he be able to survive? I mean, not so much the fight, but just the atmosphere of the fight. Because Bruno was a guy that was so tight and tense all the time that I think he wore himself out, and that's what led him to get knocked out. You didn't see that many people just put him out with one shot in the first or second round.
Right.
Tim Witherspoon, it took 11 rounds. Lennox Lewis took 8 rounds. Mike Tyson the first time, I think it was 5 or 6, second time 3. So it wasn't like one shot was knocking his ass out.
Right. And the reason I use Grant and Bruno is because I'm judging on a gradient here. Like Grant obviously never, turned out to be a whole lot, but Joshua could still turn out to be a Frank Bruno type where he's one of those guys who continues, who
hangs around for a decade, was a trinket here or there. He could also be a guy that if he loses this fight, maybe it's because he lets the moment get to him. Maybe he learns from that. I mean, George Foreman had that problem. I mean, he would get tired early. He learned from that. It took him a while, but he recovered and came back and may have been even more dangerous when he was 40 years old because he understood how to control, the circumstances around him.
Yeah, and I don't think it's implausible for Klitschko to potentially win this fight, and then, Joshua picks up the pieces, adapts to the situation, and goes and knocks out Deontay Wilder. You know what I mean? Because we both agree that,
and then Klitschko is elevated. It wouldn't surprise me if Klitschko was to somehow, if he has enough left to beat Joshua, hell, he'll beat Deontay Wilder because Wilder going to come in there swinging like a 12-year-old schoolgirl.
Right, and I mean, and I think a lot of us would still favor Joshua over a guy like, Parker, so the prospects are still, they're still elevated if he loses.
Yeah, and the good thing is we're still looking at a top 10 here where all 10 of them are at least solid fighters.
Yeah.
Which was not the case just 5 or 6 years ago. But I wanted to tell everybody, Steve Cunningham, former cruiserweight champion, now heavyweight contender, was supposed to be on the show tonight to break it down. I got a message from him right after we started the show, Jeremiah, that he has a family situation. So I think what we will do is we will have him on next week to talk about this fight, kind of break it down with us before we go ahead and preview the other fights. So right now, tentatively, Steve Cunningham will be on to talk about Klitschko Joshua with us next week. So hopefully everybody will come back there and listen to Steve Cunningham, who we've had before on the show. Very well-spoken, very intelligent man. It'll be great to have him on, to have him break down the fight. Jeremiah, do we have any boxing news?
Any boxing news? Well, I mean, that Joshua-Klitschko thing was a mouthful, and I think deservedly so. I mean, it's an exciting heavyweight fight, even if it doesn't turn into be an exciting heavyweight fight. But, I mean, there's always something in the news, always something to look out for. Unfortunately, I haven't seen what I was trying to see what some of the other heavyweights were doing, because I heard that Alexander Povetkin filed an appeal to the WBC to try and get reinstated. And I'm like, it's just one of those things where I can't put too much weight on it because I don't know exactly how that's going to play out. But I would like to briefly mention, the Kurtzides Langford fight. I told a lot of people before the fight that Langford was probably not even on the level of Antoine Douglas, who Kurtzides ended up upsetting in a great fight on Showbox. So I told a lot of people that Langford, again, he's on the British level, not the world level. Kurtzides, to his credit, went out and took everything Langford had, spit in his eye, and then knocked him out with a beautiful left hook in the 5th round. And now he becomes Billy Joe Saunders mandatory, and not that I want to put too much weight on all this trinket stuff, but that fight if anybody's seen it, I think that's a good fight, and I think one worthwhile watching. But I think Saunders is gonna look like an idiot if he skips the Golovkin fight, ends up getting beat up by this guy for a lesser payday. But that's one of the things that I wanted to mention. I also wanted to mention that Luke Campbell, one of a highly rated British prospects, is going to be on the Klitschko-Joshua card as well, in an act of trinket corruption. Luke Campbell's opponent, Darlis Perez, overnight got put into the number one spot by the the WBA, I believe. That I wanted to highlight too. Not just Campbell fighting on the card, because again, I think he's a good prospect. I think he's got a bright future.
I ignored it because of that. I mean, I think it's stupid. Scott Quigg's on that card too, and I know one of your favorites, Shumanov, the cruiserweight, will be on this weekend also, isn't he?
No, that fight ended up falling through because Shumanov had an eye injury.
Oh, okay. Well, they still had it on the list.
Yeah, I don't know. It's whenever you check one thing I've noticed with the Ring magazine is they don't update their schedule regularly, only regular enough, so it's not it's not one of those things. But did you happen to see that the WBC is creating a special belt for Canelo and Chavez? I mean, is there any surprise there?
What's the belt called?
Oh, yeah, what is it called? The give me a second and I'll find out. It's this thing. What's it called? Let me see if I can find it. It's called like the WBC Diamond Belt or something like that.
Well, whatever.
Yeah, I don't know, but yeah, I'm trying to find it. I can't see what the name of it is called, but it's got this big, engraving on it and whatnot. And to be honest with you, I mean, the WBC's always showed favoritism to Mexican fighters. No surprise there because, their main office is in Mexico. I wouldn't be surprised if the WBC, the corrupt organization that they are, if they actually elevated this to a full WBC title. I wouldn't be surprised.
Oh, they'll do anything because you got a Chavez and you got Canelo, and I'll tell you what, this fight, if it goes the distance and it's even remotely close, don't be surprised if they steal it from Canelo so they can get a rematch too.
Oh, God. Don't be surprised if they get a rematch even if it's just close. I mean, that wouldn't surprise me at all because of the amount of money that it's going to do in Mexico. I mean, Chavez is a recognizable figure because of his father. Canelo Alvarez is obviously the biggest name in Mexico. Again, I wouldn't be surprised if they did a rematch just because it does big money.
Well, that's a pretty good reason to do a rematch, though, isn't it?
Well, I guess. I mean, it is called prize fighting.
Yeah, I mean, hell, you got to get paid. All right. Well, I guess we're going to wrap it up then this week.
I guess so. I mean, yeah, that's unfortunately that's about all I've got. I'm just hoping that the prospects change because they're, besides Klitschko and Joshua and Ward versus Kovalev, there's not a whole lot on the horizon to love.
I like Canelo and Chavez, and I'm going to tell everybody why next week, and I don't think it's a closed, over and done deal either. But we will talk about that fight next weekend. And I'm sure they'll sign a few more. Hopefully Deontay Wilder will fight whoever wins Klitschko and Joshua also. Maybe they could do that in September or October.
I heard
But I would like to see Deontay Wilder fight anybody that can throw a straight punch, though, because I think that would be entertaining.
Well,
all right, we're going to wrap it up. Once again, I want to thank Jeremiah for being in. I want to thank John Einreinhofer for subbing in for me the last 2 weeks. Make sure you check out all of our shows, boxing, baseball, football, basketball, pretty much all of that. Check out all of our articles. You can hear us on iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Spreaker, Stitcher, pretty much anywhere you find sports podcasts, you'll find The Grueling Truth. So for Jeremiah Preisser, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.